Okay, so Israel, again, a small country, right?
Right.
Long and narrow in shape. And up north, that's the border with Lebanon. So if you travel from the northern border south, as crow flies all the way down to the Red Sea down here, it is about 330 miles. That's all, 330 miles. The widest point of Israel from the Dead Sea to the Mediterranean, it's about 70 miles. That's it. All right, but following the coastal plain of Israel southwest, we should get to Egypt, right? The Sinai Peninsula, Egypt, the continent of Africa. From Lebanon, if we go north, we travel north, we will get to Turkey, Greece, Europe, northeast, Syria, Iraq, Iran, but we don't want to go there. That's Mesopotamia area, the Euphrates and the Tiger, Asia, the continent of Asia. So on the west side we have the Great Sea, the Mediterranean. On the east side, a big desert. And that's why people had to travel northeast down to those countries or to the great rivers or down to Egypt through the land of Israel. Remember one of the titles, it's the land bridge, So the border with Lebanon is here, north, not a friendly neighborhood. We have no diplomatic relationship with the Lebanese, so it is a closed border. In the past we had some troubles there in the 80s with the PLO, later with Hezbollah. Still a big problem. It's a terror organization and they're actually controlling South Lebanon, even all of Lebanon. And they're getting all their support from Iran. Here, the north-east border of Israel is the border with Syria. Again, no diplomatic relationship with the Syrians. What I'm showing you now, this high ground, it is called the Golan Heights, which Israel took in 1967 from Syria during the Six-Day War. Only in recent time, your dear President, Mr. Trump, we love him here, he recognized the Golan as part of Israel, officially as part of Israel, non-negotiable. That's it. Okay, south of the Sea of Galilee, it's the longest border we share with one of our Arab neighbors, Jordan, the country of Jordan. You see, a little bit south of the Sea of Galilee, going down through the Dead Sea, Arava, to the Red Sea, the border with Jordan. So east of the country, Jordan. Southwest, the border with Egypt. That's the Negev area, Egypt. Now, the first country to sign a peace treaty with Israel was Egypt in 1979. Israel gave the whole Sinai back to the Egyptians, a territory which Israel took in the Six-Day War. So since 1981, we do have peace with Egypt. Quiet border, not much is going on. Relationship are okay, not ideal. The second country to sign a peace treaty with Israel was Jordan in 1994. So I guess if you remember those events, yes, the peace treaty was signed with Egypt, with Menahem, the main part of the coastal plain called the Plain of Sharon. Of course, you don't remember the saying, the phrase in the Bible, I am the rose of Sharon, the lily of the valley. The rose of Sharon, we think it refers to a wild flower that grows here early spring, called anemone, the red anemone. The word itself, Sharon, comes from an ancient language, and it means oak trees. Oak trees that's the meaning for the name Sharon. And it is an indication.
It's a nickname.
Indeed, back then there were lots of trees growing here. Oak trees, not only here on the mountains, and in the Bible we do read about the oak trees. It used to be the dominant trees in the land.
Including the way to spell it.
So the majority of the Israelis, as it is in many other countries, they live by the coast, all along the coast. At the center of Israel, from here north, it's the high ground. We we have high mountains right through the middle part of Israel. And the mountains, it's like think about it as a long mountain range. Okay, so if we go from Beersheba here north, we'll call the mountains first here, the mountains of Judea. This was the territory of the Judah, the tribe of Judah. So the Judean hills, or the mountains of Jerusalem, the Jerusalem Heights, which is part of it. North of Jerusalem, Samaria. So as you go north, right in the Bible we read about Samaria and the Samaritans, and then way north, Galilee. So notice all the northern region of Israel is called the Galilee. From the Jezreel Valley right here, this valley we are going to see today, which separates Carmel and Samaria from Galilee. So okay, this entire area, the northern area is called Galilee, and on the east side, the Sea of Galilee. The eastern region of Israel, it's a valley. It's a deep valley, which is part, if you've heard about the Rift Valley, by any chance, the Rift, or the Syrian African fault. Okay, or the Rift Valley. This is a long valley. It's actually a fault line which starts in Turkey and Syria all the way down to Ethiopia, Africa. Officially, it is the longest fault on planet Earth. So the Jordan Valley is part of it. So Sea of Galilee, Jordan River starts, by the way, here. It runs down into the Sea of Galilee. It used to run out of the sea, not anymore, down to the Dead Sea, and then you see that we have the Arava, the Red Sea, going all the way to Ethiopia, Africa. So this is a long route. And the sea, the Dead Sea, it is considered officially as the lowest place on the face of the earth. 1,300 feet below sea level. The Sea of Galilee, further north, it is the lowest freshwater lake in the whole world. 670 feet below. So, see, as you travel south, it gets lower. Okay, so 670, the Sea of Galilee minus, below sea level, the Dead Sea 1,300 feet below. Then as you leave the Sea of Galilee, you go back up to sea level when you get to the Red Sea. All the southern part of Israel, you see from the middle down, this big triangle, it's a desert. Notice half of the country is a desert, and it's called the Negev. Negba or Negev mentioned in the Bible. So from Beersheba south, just a big desert. In the Bible was called the non-inhabited land. Even today, if you look at the map, you won't see names of many cities. On the other hand, it is a big training zone for the Israeli army. So there are big army bases and air force bases in the Negev, but of course you won't see it on the map. So the southern tip of Israel, it's the resort city of Eilat. Eilat, here by the Red Sea. It's the #1 resort town in Israel. Scuba diving, it's one of the nicest things to do there at the Red Sea. Eilat is mentioned in the Bible. King Solomon had a fleet of ships, that's in the Bible, and who helped him to build this fleet of ships? Hiram, the king of Tyre, in Eilat, Etzion Gaber. It is mentioned in the Bible. Eilat, Etzion Gaber. We believe that when Queen Sheba came to visit him, she came right through here, through Eilat. So what I've showed you, it's like the 4 main geographical areas, all right? From the middle down, the Negev, the coastal plain, the mountains, and the valley. When Abraham, remember, when he sent Hagar away, he sent her from the Beersheba to the wilderness of Beersheba. So she went from here south, all right? Jerusalem is right here on the mountains, on the high ground, the capital city of Israel. Right?
Yes.
Well, it was always the capital city for the Jewish people, for the Israelis, but it was not recognized as such by the nations. President Trump did so not long ago, and now there are a few countries that are following his footsteps, and that's the way we think it should be. Since the days of David, Jerusalem was the capital. It was never in history a capital of an Arab state. Never. When the Turks were here, or the Mamluks before, not that it's such an important city for them. Um, just one more thing. So think about Jerusalem, the capital, Tel Aviv down here, the business center, the commercial center, and the main seaport city in Israel today, it is Haifa. Look at the map nearby Mount Carmel. There is a bay called Haifa Bay, the main seaport city. We have another one in Ashdod, the main seaport city, Ashdod, and the third, Eilat. 3 ports in the country. Something we'll get to talk about it a bit later, the West Bank. You keep hearing about the West Bank. So notice what we're dealing with. The West Bank is all the middle part of Israel, which was not under Israeli control pre-1967. So if you look at that, look, what I'm showing you now, this is Judea and Samaria. See, all of it is the West Bank. Jerusalem before 67 was a divided city. So it refers obviously to the west bank of the river Jordan, but it's not only the bank of the river, it includes the high ground. See, so all the territory here, the middle part, it's called the West Bank. It means before 67, Israel here at the center was about 10 miles wide. That's all. And you can immediately understand why Israelis are so concerned about security. Like, you know, talking about giving territory back or land back, it's a serious issue. Yeah, if Israel will give back the high ground, we'll be left with 10 miles. So that's a big problem. We'll get to discuss it. We won't talk politics a lot, but just to give you facts, all right? Okay, so this is for now, and we are getting real close to Caesarea. The park, the state park here, Caesarea, the areas that were uncovered by archaeologists. Okay, so first of all, let me say Caesarea was a city founded by King Herod the Great. It was established by the king, and he became the king of the land in the year 40 BC. He was appointed as the king by the Romans because it was part of the Roman Empire. And the Romans, by the way, to control their empire, they used to appoint local kings. And if those kings were good for Rome, they were able to hold on to their throne, and if not, they were removed immediately. So we are calling those kings client kings. And Herod was very good for the Romans, had very good ties with them. He was himself not a complete Jew, he was a converted Jew. 3 generations back, his family were Edomites. He became Jewish, and so that's why there was a resistance for him by the Jewish upper class. They never treated him as their own king, or one of them. So he was not that popular among his people, among the Jewish people, but on the other hand, he did great things for them, like building the temple in Jerusalem. We will talk much about that. At the same time, he had a very tough regime. Herod was not a friendly guy. He was the guy, he was the king who gave the order to kill the children from 2 years under. So when Christ was born, it was maybe the year 6 or 5, between those years BC. Herod, by the way, died in 4 BC, so shortly after he actually died, at the age of 69 or 70 in Jericho. He had a big palace there in Jericho. So we'll get to talk more about him. The city here was one of his building projects. He was responsible for more than 20 building projects in the kingdom. And they were going on at the same time. The number 1 project was the temple in Jerusalem. Unbelievable stuff. The temple platform he constructed in Jerusalem was equivalent to 22 football fields. Just to put it in perspective for you. The city Caesarea is an amazing port city, fortresses, palaces everywhere. That's why history gave him the title Herod the Great. He was such a great builder, maybe the greatest builder in the whole region in ancient times. And the city here he named after Caesar Augustus. That's why the name Caesarea, Caesarea by the sea, Maritima. The city was named after Caesar Augustus, and that was the way of all client kings to show loyalty and respect to the different emperors. So he was not the only one who did so. Later his son, Herod Antipas, named the city Tiberias after Tiberius. So they all did so. In the Bible, we have 4 different Herods. We'll get to talk about them too. Different Herods in the Bible. So the city here came to be, was established between 22 BC to 10. It took 12 years to establish the city of Caesarea. This line here shows the city wall, which was much further out, you see behind the buses. And later in the 4th, 5th and 6th century, when the city became bigger, a new wall was built, you see, much further out. So if the population of the city at the time of Herod here was about 15 or 20,000, later close to 40,000. Big city. In relation to it, we are now here. This is us. Okay, see, so we are standing nearby the southern section of the city, and soon we'll go and visit the structure you see here. Was a Roman theater for shows, performances. We'll go and see it. A lot of it was redone inside, you'll see. This complex would have been Herod's palace. Look over there behind the flags. Another place we'll go and see. By the water, see this is the coastline right here. So what he did, he established this palace on a natural reef. You see, this is a reef. He was using it as the foundations for the palace with a nice swimming pool in the middle here. Surrounded by different bedrooms, and here was a nice garden. Before you got or had reached the palace, you have to go across a nice garden, and then palace here. Location. Exactly what he was doing. This place is called the Stadium or the Hippodrome, for not only for chariot races but also sport competitions. So notice the city was established as a Roman city, and indeed at first Jewish people didn't live here. It was a pagan city. And Herod knew, he was a clever guy. He knew how to keep everyone happy and pleased. So for non-Jews, he built the pagan shrines. For the Jewish people, a magnificent temple. So he knew how to keep the right balance between those two groups. Yeah. Now, this wall, nothing to do with Herod. It was built more than 1,000 years after his time by Crusaders. The Crusaders came here. They built a castle, a fortress on top of the old city. Okay, so this came much later. Right here we see a big structure. It was a temple for Jupiter, built by Herod the Great. This temple was destroyed, and later a church was built there, and later a mosque at the same location, different structures over the history. But at the time of Herod, facing the temple, the main structure here, no doubt, was the harbor. Remember, Caesarea was a seaport city, and look at that, from the seashore, a breakwater. Look at the length, 1,600 feet long, 1,600 feet. So by then, the people had already this technology to build seawalls, not before, not so much. And look, another one here, shorter here, and look, all together, we're talking about maybe the largest harbors in the empire. There is a debate if it was the second largest or the largest. This harbor at that time was able to hold 100 Roman ships. You cannot see the breakwaters. The only thing left is the foundations of those breakwaters underwater. Because of earthquakes and erosion, it's gone. But there are aerial photographs showing it. You can scuba dive here, by the way. I did several times, and you can still find pieces of pottery, big stone anchors that fell from boats, and cargo, something else. So we keep finding things over there. Why such a harbor? And Herod, and he did, he wanted to control the international trading between East and West. He did statues that used to decorate the temple, the pagan shrines, public buildings, statues of emperors, philosophers, and writers. Like the guy over here, see, grapes. So we became a Christian city up until when? The Herod occupation. 638, the Herod the Public.
Is that exactly where they were in the next?
Oh no, they moved in
Yeah, when they found them.
Yeah, they were found in, they just put them for decoration.
Okay.
So the theater you're about to see, it's still used in our time for shows and concerts, and you'll see when you go in on the stone seats, numbers. So the most famous Israeli singers are coming here to sing, usually at summertime. So that's the way it was back then. It was the theater was a structure for shows, performances, or for speeches.
Agrippa says to Paul, do you believe that in such a short time you can persuade fascinating statement that Agrippa makes to Paul? And Paul's response, if you may remember, is he says, short time or long time, I don't know. I just hope that everyone will become as I am, yet without change. And so Paul was willing to, it's probably one of the best examples of a Christian sharing his testimony in Acts chapter 26. And if you remember, Agrippa says, do you think you can persuade me to be a Christian? And when I read that story, spiritual lesson for all of God's people today. You and I, on the one hand, cannot persuade somebody to be a Christian. Isn't that right? The whole work, you've heard me say this before over and over again in church, the whole work of the whole gospel is the whole work of God. God is ultimately the one that changes the hearts of people, right? He's the one that does the work of evangelism. And then on the other side, in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, Paul says, since we know what it is to fear the Lord, we persuade men. So here's Agrippa saying, do you think you can persuade me? And Paul, we have a responsibility, best we can, humanly speaking, to persuade people. And the way that we persuade people in evangelism is what? To know our story. Just like Paul had testimony standing here in the middle of the acousticon sharing his testimony, you and I should know what our testimony is. And if you don't know what your Christian testimony is, it's three parts of the story. It's a before, who I was before I came to know Jesus Christ. I came to know Christ when I was 17 years old. I had a life before I came to know Christ. Then there's the how. This is how I came to know Jesus Christ, right? It's my best friend shared the gospel with me and told me about Jesus Christ as Lord. And then there's an after. What God has been doing in our lives since then. And when we have a before, a how, and an after, that becomes our testimony. That's how we're able to do what Peter said. Do your best to give an apologetic or explain the reason for the hope that you have. In fact, we should all know our story in Jesus Christ. So whether we have a short time with somebody or a long time, we're able to talk about what Jesus Christ has done for us. So this is a profound place. This is the best Christian testimony we can ever get.